Welcome to Pure Math 030. This is a small section on domain and range. It actually is a special case similar to what we did in the previous lesson, but I didn't get around to doing this particular one. And there are some in the workbook like this, and it's a useful topic. And it's just titled Another Special Case. And we get this equation, x squared plus y squared is equal to 9, and we're instructed to determine the domain and range of it. This may or may not be a familiar equation. And I'm going to look at two ways to tackle this problem. So method 1 would require us to note by inspection that that is an equation of a circle, and it's centered at the origin with a radius of 3. The 3 is coming from the square root of 9. So if you've seen circles before, no problem. This is definitely the easiest way to do it. And by the end of the term, you work with circles frequently, particularly in the conic section unit. So it wouldn't be a problem long term. And that's the easiest way to handle it. And then you look at this little circle, centered at the origin, radius of 3, and it makes finding the domain quite routine. From -3 to +3, all real numbers. So lower limit -3, upper limit +3. And the range would be very similar, -3 to +3. So if you can do that, that's great. However, I'm going to show you the algebraic method for it too. And this is more work, but I'm calling it algebraic, and it is partly, but it's also using your graphing calculator. So mathematically, we would isolate the y. So the first step would be y squared is equal to 9 minus x squared. The x squared gets subtracted from both sides. And then we take the square root of both sides, keeping in mind that we must go plus or minus. So we have two values. Now this is turning it into two functions. And on our calculator, and I will show you this right afterwards, we would enter y1 is equal to square root, open bracket, 9 minus x squared. And then y2 is equal to negative square root, bracket, 9 minus x squared. So I will bring up the calculator. So here we go. We turn the calculator on. Looks like we've got some stuff on here. And I'm going to clear this away. It's from the previous exercise. And for y1, I'll enter square root. So square root is second function x squared. And then just 9 minus x squared. Close that bracket. Then I go down to y2, and I go negative, so I look for the little minus negative sign, and then square root 9, take away x squared. Close that bracket. So two separate functions. And then graph. Now already you're thinking, this is no circle, this is an ellipse. And it is a circle if you take a look at the measurements or where the x and y intercepts are. However, your grapher will have the x and y axes not aligned to the same scale. So to get around that problem, I press zoom, and if you go to number 5, you'll see square. So zoom square will align those axes and will turn your circle into a circle. Now this is graphing it for you. I didn't actually algebraically calculate the domain and range, but this will work. Now I'm going to show you another way, and I'm going to back this up with the next slide. But here's something else you can do a little quicker. I'll clear these two. And there's a method you can use to graph both positive and minus on the same. I use these braces. So right above the bracket key, so second function, open bracket, you'll see that brace come up. And then I just enter 1, comma, and then -1, and then close the brace like that. And what I'm telling the calculator is to graph whatever function is coming, this square root of 9 minus x squared. However, graph the positive one and then the negative one, and it'll do it all together. So if you think of it, you can do that in order to save you a little bit of time, just a few keystrokes. And there you have it. And by graphing it like this, we can now recognize the domain and range. So I'm going to go back to the other information. So here we are. That's what we saw previously. And here's what we can do now. y1 is equal to brace 1 comma negative 1 square root 9 minus x squared. I didn't show it here, but by pressing zoom 5, you can square up your axes. So it works pretty well. So thank you for your time.